Good evening. Today, everything turned out perfectly fine on the first go. So it is absolutely awesome to be here this evening. Yeah, yesterday was technical issues galore, but we are not going to labor on the past. So, what I'm going to do is set up the evening for us, just to give a bit of direction as to. Oh, perfect. See, I just bragged too much about perfectly fine. Now I'm hearing myself talk. Nonetheless, a very good evening, and I trust that you are all well and you're here for some awesome learning. My name is Genevieve Stafford Jack. Welcome to my channel. If this is your first time, I want to say welcome. And if you're returning, I trust that this particular video that I've got in store for you this evening is going to help develop and shape where you're going to within your property investing journey. So what I'm going to do is get straight into it, right? Tonight, I'm going to share with you like just a quick overall definition of what property investment is. And some of you that are a little bit more ahead of others, please be patient, like all of maybe 2 to 3 minutes, just so that I can set up what the picture would actually look like. And then we're going to go into some of the definitions, and that I've put onto a bit of a PowerPoint presentation. But what I would love the most is that you comment down below the definition that you would love unpacked this evening. And I promise we're going to answer that question as we also go along the way. So just to give an overview on, so what is property investment, or what is investing in property? Well, an investment property really is a piece of real estate that you purchase with the intention of earning a profit, what people will then call a return on investment, meaning you invest X amount of money, you get that X amount of money back with money on top of that. So your money is making children. So you get the money and the children back. And you can get this back in a form of a rental income, or potentially you sell it a little bit further down the line, or potentially both. There is different types of strategies that you will find along the way, right? And really this helps you actually get to understanding investment property. Some people buy investment property or any sort of property, turn it into a business where they're collecting rent on a monthly basis. So they'll buy this property, they'll buy a few more of these properties, and all the rental income that they do collect, they end up paying for their bonds or however way they financed that property. They pay for the monthly expenses, and then they've got this little cash flow at the end, put it all together from a number of different properties. There you've got a cash flow or potentially a supplementation to your income. There's other people that are like, no, that doesn't really work for me. I want to do something and I want to get going now in property. So they'll buy a property that is probably run down a little bit, that needs some attention so that you can do some renovations. They end up buying this property way under market value, meaning they buy the property much less than what it's worth because they need to do the work, right? So by doing the work, they're now bringing this property, which is valued potentially, say for example, in this example, at 300,000, but because it was broken down, people won't see the value of 300,000 until it's fixed up. So they bring it up to market value as what it would be termed, right? Then they decide to sell that property straight away. And that is what you call the flipping strategy. So in this, you'll find there's different types of investment property. You'll find residential, you'll find commercial, and you'll find what they call mixed use. So residential property is that property that is quite popular in terms of investment strategies, and you just buy your 2-bed, 1-bath, 3-bed, 2-bath, whichever, primary or whichever residence people will stay in where they rent, right? Residential property. That is what is called residential property, and you earn an income by collecting rent from that property. Then there's commercial. Commercial, you can think of it as a string of shops. Do you have a salon where you rent out that particular space, or you rent out a space, and then there's a hairdresser that rents it from you. They rent a number of different chairs out to the hairdressers, and thereby, the hairdressers pay the one whose name is on the lease, which is the tenant. The tenant then pays you. So commercial could potentially work in a staggered approach like that. Or you could find buildings where they call mixed use, because at the bottom there's shops and on the top is flats. So it's a living space. So it's literally a mixture of residential and commercial. So just to quickly sum that up, all right, so an investment property is purchased with the intention of earning a return on investment or a profit, okay? And then you can get the future resale of that property, or sometimes people buy for both. And other times it also depends on the area. Properties can be short term or long term as an investment, where you buy a property, renovate it, and sell it short term, or long term, you buy a property, renovate it, and rent it out, right? Investment property is you could find that it's your second home. But in today's world, the way investing has changed it, there are some people that stay in their residential property, and they potentially rent out two of the other rooms, and thereby having that particular property as their primary residence as well as their investment residence. But traditionally, it would never be your primary residence where you're staying with your family and nobody else is maybe renting out other rooms like Airbnb and different services like that, right? And then selling an investment property, at the end of the day, what happens, whether it's long term or short term, there's something that you call capital gains, okay? And this is actual tax implications that you would get for this particular property. But again, giving you a definition of what property investment is all about, and really understanding what property is there, what property is about at the end of the day. So, giving you that quick synopsis, I know that many people already know that, but for those of you that are like, you know what, Jen, I want to start at the basics. That is me starting at the basics, so that you're understanding on what property investing, and especially because of this session, it's called Beginner's Guide to Property Investing, where we want to understand the definitions and the different terminology that is used within property investing. Now, I did say to you, what I had gone ahead and done is created like a small presentation. But the presentation is not like, we hear and you must learn like this. It is just so, the bit of interaction on the screen, Yana. So here we go. For property investing, the definitions and guides. There's a lot of acronyms or small little terms that people use. I know for one, when I got started in property investing, oh boy, there were some days I was like, just hold the phone. Before you even tell me about all those 75 things, you lost me here. And this is some of those little things that I know how I got lost. There may just be people out there that are saying the same thing as I did, like, hey, hold the phone, just give me the definition of that first word before you tell me about 75 different things, right? So, in this particular space, we're going to start talking about the what, the who, the how, the why, where, when, just so that we can actually get a big picture of the definition that I've just given this particular, the introduction into this particular training. Now, the first question, I must say, there are so many people that ask, who are property investors? Like, who are these people? So today's version of the truth is going to be in simple terms, and it's going to drive home to you whether you can be classified as a property investor or not. Because remember, buying an investment property, you're either buying it so that you can make a profit from that property now or later, or both. Okay. So who is a property investor? A property investor is somebody that's got access to money. How will they have access to money? They'll have access to money by means of a bond. They'll have access to money by maybe means of an inheritance, or somehow getting that money. There are sometimes in cases of people that are married, the remaining spouse will get whatever money and stuff that they set up, right? So when you've got access to this money, what would you do? You would buy a property. Why would you buy a property? To make a profit. People that have an investment mindset is somebody else is going to stay in this property. They're going to pay me a rental income. From that rental, the normal rent that you will sign on a rental agreement, that rental income, now, if I've taken out a bond, I can now go pay back the bond. And because we buy property that is generally under market value and may need some bit of attention, or we buy property that people that are in a hurry to leave town are selling, and you'll still get it less than what its actual value is. This is how you're going to cover when the rental income comes in. This is how you're going to cover the bond and the expenses, the monthly operating expenses that comes with this property. What would those expenses look like? Electricity, levies, rates and taxes. You get the picture, right? And then you'll have this sum total of money left at the end of the day, which is your return on investment, your profit, right? And then you're going to be collecting this money. But as people are paying year in and year out, somebody else is staying in this property, they're paying off the bond, and you earning from there. That's what makes you an investor. This is what happens where people buy multiple of these properties, and then they, at some stage, say for example, they were taking home 15,000 Rand, and they say, well, I don't really want to take home 15,000 Rand, essentially. I maybe want to take home 8 to 10,000 to be comfortable. And then they buy a number of properties, which will bring them this and a little bit more for buffer. So the property is then paying them, and they're immediately taking the rewards as a salary so that they can utilize their new acquired time to do something else. And that's what makes people a property investor. And again, the very basic of how to explain that. This is what makes property investing so lucrative to so many people that want to get involved in property investing, because they see, I've been working for the last 30 to 40 years. What have I gotten from there? So what if I was at work and then I can get a bond and then buy this property? And I can get a second bond after 3 or 4 years and buy this property. And then because each year I'm earning a little bit more money, these two properties are bringing me an income. I could leverage what these properties are bringing me to buy the third property, to eventually keep replicating that. So potentially over a 7 to 10 year span, you then replace your salary. And now that you've got this free time, you would have already worked on what is it that I really feel passionate about. And that's how we could classify a property investor and what makes them a property investor in terms of earning a salary or creating this as a business. So I trust that that is simple enough. Moving on. We want to then find out, okay, so I know what a property investor is now. I know what investment property is. We've done a quick synopsis on that. But I keep hearing this word deal, 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 or a property investing opportunity. What is that? Let me tell you a joke. When I first sat in the training room, I'd gone for my property investing education. I never knew it existed. It was December 2016, while everybody was enjoying themselves at the staff year-end party. I was getting educated because at the end of the day, I wanted to get into property investing to create an additional income stream to help pay the debt that we had gotten into from our side hustles. So my husband had this genius idea, let's go to a seminar. And I was like, why does he want to go to a seminar? Because, like, dude, we don't have money. We are overextended at the bank. And right now, the farm that we had is bleeding us for money, and you want to go to do property investing. cuckoo. Like, this is what I thought, right? And I remember sitting there, and this guy in the front was just talking about deal, deal, deal. But like, what deal? What deal? And I was so irritated to a point where I could have, like, I promise you, I could have gotten off my chair and thrown it. That's how irritated I was. Okay, I'm dramatic, but this is how what felt like inside. And so he went on, and then he spoke about a no money down deal. No money in property. What deal? This is the deal I'm talking about today. So I know I got stuck on that one, and I had to pull somebody aside and ask, but what is the deal? So what is a property deal? It just means we found some real estate, whether it be commercial or whether it be residential, or that mixed use that I was talking about earlier in the introduction, right? Whichever real estate that we found, or potentially buying a piece of land to actually build. We have found this real estate, and then we did our homework, which is the research. If I buy this property and it's broken down and it needs attention, a little bit of renovation, a little bit of plumbing, fixing, some painting, what, if this property on a normal day, if it was fixed, is worth 300,000, but this property, because it's not fixed and needs lots of attention, I may get it at 200,000, which then means I'm going to make sure that the renovation costs are sorted out, the buying costs. When you're buying a property and you go to the bank will charge you for registering your bond. So there's bond registration fees. And then the attorneys will charge you for transferring the property from the seller to you, who's the buyer. So there's transfer fees. Okay. Those very simplified. And then you now start saying, okay, if I paid 200,000 for this, I've paid another 25,000 Rand to fix the property. And say, for the example, the bond and registration cost is maybe another 20 to 25,000 Rand. Here I'm sitting potentially at 250,000 Rand in, right, to have closed this property deal. That's what makes it a deal. Why? Because now, instead of paying 300,000 for it, which is what it's worth right now, you bought it for 250,000. I mean, you bought it for 200,000. You renovated it for 20, 25,000, and the cost to close it and get your bond and your transfer sorted out is another 20, 25,000, which then means you into this 250,000. So if you decide to sell that property straight away to do a flip, there's a margin of about 50,000 that you'll be able to make. Why? Because it turned out to be a good property deal. Because just think about the word deal. A deal is something that's going to be profitable for all people involved, right? That, I remember going to China Mall many moons ago. They used to say, you buy this thing 50 Rand. Okay, say this was 50 Rand. Let's just be a little bit ridiculous, right? You buy this thing for 50 Rand, but if you buy five of them, instead of 50 Rand a piece, you'll get it for 35 Rand a piece. Isn't that a deal? Because you've now made some negotiations with the bargaining chips that you've got going on there, even though that person who is selling it to you may have gotten it slightly cheaper. It's still a deal to you, because if I bought one, it would be 50. But if I bought at stock, which is what they would call it, it then becomes 35 Rand each. So that has become a deal because you've negotiated it to get to that particular point. So this becomes a property investing opportunity. This becomes what they will also call a property deal. So it's not something abstract, it's just words that they use to make what we're doing in property pop and come alive. And if you like that explanation, I would love you to smash in the like button, so that let's keep going, right? Let's keep the momentum going. In terms of another definition that's going to fit in the grand scheme of life, what is a property investing strategy? A strategy is just something of how you are going to make your money. So now you want to know, is it going to be a passive income strategy, or is it going to be an active income strategy? And by means of the introduction, I already explained what it is. Okay, so I'm going to take it now to a level further. So a passive income strategy would be some sort of rental income strategy that you're going to use to earn your money. Now, in rental, there's more than just I buy a property and I rent it out to a single family. There's things what they call a multi-let, meaning if I've got a 3-bed, 2-bath, I could decide, because my property is in the hub or very close to, say, for example, like a financial institution or some big institution like an insurance or a call center, I could, per room, rent out each room to a young professional. So I could rent it out to 3 young professionals looking for a commune area or communal type of area, right? Where they feel comfortable that they could leave home with their bed as well as their clothes and start life without like going to buy their own property. And they now feel like I'm out of my caretaker's house. The caretakers could be the caregivers, which is your parents or somebody that that you grew up with, right? So you'll find that there's a rental income strategy of multi-letting is I'm going to get rent not from a single family, but from 3 different property or maybe 3 different professionals, right? And this is how I'm going to make my money. Alternatively, you could find that, hey, no, I don't really want to deal with the same people all the time. I've got a property that is close to a university. It's within 1 kilometer to a university. And I could then go and find, how are the private students getting the accommodation? Or if I want to go the whole Monty and say, well, in terms of serviced accommodation, which is student accommodation, because you're providing a service, what you then say is, well, you know what? I am going to get my accreditation and then rent it out to students, because I know per student, I've got X space, which then means each room could potentially host 2 students. And then I've got 6 students in my 3-bed, 2-bath, right? So these are strategies. These are strategies on how am I going to make money specifically within the passive income space. The strategy that we spoke about within the flipping space, which is a short-term strategy, is to buy that property, to renovate that property and immediately sell it. Short-term goal, and it is a strategy. And some people will say, actually, I want to do 2 or 3 flips per year or per 16 months or per 18 months so that I can create a pot of money. And this pot of money, I'm going to then start buying 2-bed, 1-bath, which is like at 200,000 in some of the areas. And I want to buy these cash so I can start off my portfolio and start leveraging what I'm doing. So now you're becoming like sniper. Like, yeah, I know that there is to buy a property, but now I know how to make the most money, pardon, from that property. But you know what? There's another strategy that you would also often hear. And this definition is called a no money down strategy, where some people will say, no money down. What are you talking about? That is what people like myself that start off overextended at the bank, which means we can't go to the bank for money. You start off in debt. I mean, 20 ways to Sunday, you got no money, right? So how am I going to get along and earn money from property investing? You start looking for strategies where it's called a no money down deal. Now, there's something I want to separate here. Like, oftentimes somebody will say, but if it's a no money down deal, I still have to pay for education and I still have to pay for the reports. That's money out of my pocket. No, that's the tools that you're going to use for the no money down strategy. So I would love that if you, somewhere along the line, you're trying to understand what's the difference. There are strategies where you put very little to no money down, and then there are strategies that you don't put any money down. Getting the education is one thing. Getting the tools to help you do the job is one thing, but it's not part of the strategy. It is just saying, I've done my homework and I've done my due diligence so that this strategy works for somebody. And so some of the no money down strategies you'll find are what they call a back-to-back deal. I buy a property, I sign for it. While I'm still signing for it on paper, I'm able to resell it straight away. So, which means two offer to purchase would go into the deeds office. And for 10 minutes, you're the owner. And for the next 10 minutes, you're not. Somebody else is. All right. And then there's a way to broker that particular deal. There's something else that is called seller finance, where the person that is actually selling the property becomes your investor. But here's the thing. You need to understand these strategies in its full entirety. Like, I cannot stress how you need to understand this like the back of your hand, because there's a lot of negotiation that happens. It's not a strategy that just suddenly happens, right? It takes time. It takes a measure of your, doing the property investing education. It takes time to really understand what goes into it. And that is what my hubby and I did. In fact, our first deal was a joint venture where we founded property, right? We did all the due diligence around it. And then we got somebody who's got money to partner up with us. And with that partnership, we were able to use this person's credit profile, and then we were able to move forward with the deal. So at the end of the day, it made it a deal. Why? Because we got our return on investment, our profits that we were looking for. Okay. So this is what you will hear about a no money down strategy. Where do you find deals and where do you find investors? Again, I'm calling it the guide to property investing because it's giving you an overview, but I'm also unpacking some of the common definitions, or rather the common statements that are used to give it a definition. So firstly, online and offline, as the pictures suggest. This is where you're going to find deals as well as investors. How would you find a deal? You could go into Property 24. One of the easiest ways to spot what a potential deal looks like is that on Property 24, when you see like 101 beautiful pictures, it's almost like taken in 3D, and you get lost in that dream. That is not a deal. That is a dream of what you want to have, to achieve in your life potentially, right? And then when you're scrolling and you're scrolling and you're scrolling, and then suddenly you find, hey, why am I only seeing pictures of outside? It doesn't make sense, because if they're selling the property, I want to see inside. Now that is a potential deal. Why would I say that? Think about it. When you look at Facebook and when you look at Instagram, let's take Instagram. I like to interfere with Instagram for this example, right? Let's take Instagram. How many times have you gone onto Instagram and you actually just say, really? How many more angles can we see the same person? You check it in this way, check it in that way, check it in this way. Like, people are just doing the most. Now, when you are showing off what is there, it means that that particular person has already done the due diligence and they've gotten the proceeds because everything is pretty. But if I'm not showing you what is under the hood, so to speak, you got questions. That's how you should be when you're looking for property deals online. There should be questions that leave you thinking, hey, Bana, but this something is not right here. The best one is when you sometimes just find one picture. And I recall doing a class some time back. It was actually hysterical. In 2019, I was running a 1 day class where I talk about getting started in property. And the student in the class says, hey, Jen, when I see that one picture, I just think to myself, this person can kidnap me. And if they kidnap me, they'll hold me up for ransom, and my family must pay. And I'm like, but my friend, how do they know your family's got money to pay in the first place? But yes, I understand caution. But I'm wanting to say that sometimes when we see these things, it invokes this, oh my gosh, somebody could steal me, or some sort of vibe, right? Just think about it. Just think about it. Don't dismiss it. This is maybe a time where you actually say to yourself, maybe I should have had a partner in crime to go and view such properties, to actually understand what's happening. Because many of my deals, I promise you, I found because of that accident. I questioned it to death. I said to my husband, but baby, this doesn't make sense. This picture of this building wasn't two other things that we saw, you know? This one picture doesn't tell us anything. I promise you, it is the most hysterical thing to see. But start questioning the things that don't look right, opposed to getting into a dream world. And that's how you'd be able to find a deal online. How would you find the deal offline? When you're going to view some of these properties, because you've got this lead online of one picture, you get there and then you start seeing bingo, there's some work that needs to be done. All right. Then you have the discussion with the real estate agent. When you have more properties like this, because I work with people that are interested in that DIY renovating type vibe, I would like that you call me, right? And the more people that you see, real estate agents, that have the property that you're looking at, that like, this is the picture of what I'm looking for, the more you talk to them, the more you'll find these are the leads that will come to you offline. And this is what I also find true to investors. When I'm online, and then I am on, say, for example, Facebook. Look, I'm going to pick on social media because some of the most interesting things I've learned is off social media. When I was on social media, I was talking about, I remember talking about my 1 year anniversary in property investing. I said, hey, exactly a year this time, I could have been shaking my business at a year-end party. But 1 year later, who would have thought that, yeah, I am wheeling and dealing in property investing, all because I took time to invest in my education, and I made sure it's not going to collect dust, and I actually do the things that I was learning. Do you have any clue how I was just expressing myself and feeling that gratitude and what, and boom, here's my inbox full. Jen, where did you go? How come in? Where are they? Like queries left, right, and center. And there was one person that said, oh, you know what? I struggle finding deals. Do you want to team up? What they didn't know is that I had become what you call a sourcing agent. So I was creating a different kind of active income. And this is where they call it the creative finance space. And then I was finding the deals, doing the due diligence, doing everything as if I'm going to buy it. But instead, I would look for investors. And when that post gave me a 180, where there was a lot of people that were interested in what I was doing, there was somebody interested in pairing up with me. And that's then I thought, oh, that's interesting. So I thought I might as well start talking more about property investing in a constructive way, not in a way of, oh, I found this deal, it gives me 18% return on investment, wara, wara, wara. Somebody that is not educated in terms of the property investing space will just think, you, that scam, woo, sham. But if I'm going to express my aha moment, or I'm going to express something that I have learned, I'm going to attract people to me. And that's how I started finding investors online. Offline, I would attend different property networking events. There's a networking event that was called South Africa Property Investors Network. There's another one that was called Epic. And then there's other networking spaces I would still go to talking about property. And I would find in the midst of the corporate world, or my corporate colleagues, are some people that are interested in property investing. Now, that became a double-edged sword for me, because when I'd be standing in front of a networking event, they would give premier members an opportunity to sell their deal. I would go to the front and say, I've got a deal. 800 meters away from the university. This is what it can give you. I give the highlight and I say, for more details, see me during the break. And I literally would be surrounded by 10, 15 people at the same time, right? So for me, I found it a worthwhile exercise being involved in such networking events based on the fact that I was paying, I think, was it 2 or 2,500 or something small like that per annum, and each time I get to fishing out into a big pond of faces, and I've got 10 to 15 people around me, potentially wanting to buy my deal, right? And I then found these others that said, I want to do what you're doing. Those are the ones for the first 3 to 4 months I used to run away from. And I'll tell you why I ran away from them. I ran away from some people based on the fact that I was thinking, but I don't want to teach this, not yet. I want to feel more accomplished. I don't want somebody to actually assume I am making my money because I'm teaching. I'm wanting to do the most in this. So I was running away, running away, running away. While I was finding the investors, I was still running away from people that say, teach me what you're doing, until May 2019, I eventually caved in and I started teaching because, for me, I just found, okay, if I'm going to teach something, at least I know I've got the evidence of what I'm doing as a forerunner for what I'm teaching. And that's when I started finding on social media, you're not just going to find one thing. You're not just going to find the only thing you're looking for. You're going to find a whole lot more. And had it not been for social media, whether it be on Facebook or whether it be on LinkedIn, there are some things I would not have accomplished today the way I did because of social media. But I learned the strategy of do not scare people away, because I know some days I pick up my phone and I just see, join me and 5 other people and put in 100,000 and get 18% return on investment. Firstly, I don't know that person. Secondly, how do I know the due diligence that that person did is proper? Like, I would worry about that. And then I just say, maybe not, eh? But if that person would say something like, I'm in the space of learning, right? And I didn't know that I could get involved in property investing without money. That would be like, I would go there and ask, how would you do that? Because I can ask that question on Facebook if this person is my friend, and they'll be able to explain it to me. And that's when I started finding the magic of sharing the things I do, my mistakes I've made, and my aha moments. That's how I attracted many of my property investors, because they were people on my Facebook page. Sometimes they were friends with they were friends with people I used to work with. And so I would get a call, a friend of mine that you work with saw this on your profile, and they also know I'm in property. Can we talk? Okay. Can we talk? Sure, no problem. Then, I would talk, I would indulge it. And that's when I started saying, oh, okay, this thing is working after all, right? This that I'm after, wanting to understand, is working. And that's where I started finding some of these strategies that I would use is not just a matter of, thumb sucking ideas. It's a matter of following up. And that's how and where I would find deals and investors. And it all goes back to, I think this is the beginning of it all, which is, what's your why? My why was clear. My why was, I'm in debt, it's growing debt, I'm overextended at the bank. There was no luxury of, oh, I want to leave a legacy. Yes, that was secondary. Did I dream that way? Absolutely. My why was clear. And I believe that when you are very clear about why you're doing something, it comes back to you in its clarity. I am out here starting out in property investing, wanting to create an additional income to start fixing my life. And fixing my life comes in the form of, if this deal here and that deal there gives me a 10,000, give me a 15,000, give me a 17,000, which debt is the smallest that I could take that money and put it into that debt, close it and say, give me a closure letter, what? And make sure you talk to ITC and tell them I'm no longer that slow one that's paying, like I'm dramatic. And that is not going to stop at any time. That was my why. I was very clear 4 years ago about my why. My why is transformed right now because I've gotten into property. And in property right now, I have then found that property investing has bought me a measure of time. And with it buying me time, I'm then able to dabble in the things that I enjoy. There's a lot of things that I enjoy online. I mean, had I found out about YouTube and the power of YouTube just simply 4 years ago, I'd be teaching all sorts of stuff on YouTube. Why? Because I enjoy teaching. I enjoy sharing and talking to the end of the world or to the nth degree on the things that I love. It's creating assets so that somebody else could make better decisions than I did. And today's session on Beginner's Guide to Property Investing really is about sharing with you the basics, sharing with you how to understand some of these words. And I'm wondering, so far I haven't seen any comments yet, and I'm wondering, is there anyone that have got comments that's going to ask, okay, but there's another definition that you have left out. And if you've got any of those, whether you hear live or you hear on replay, I would love that you hashtag, where you are. Is it live or replay? And I would love to hear, what definition would you choose me to unpack so that it makes the sense that it makes to you where you are? Because I promise you, for a long time, I was deal what? Like, it took me a time. And I mean, some days I used to think I'm the slow kid in the class. But then I found out a little bit later, I'd rather be the slow kid in the class and get clarification so that when I get the clarification of this thing, I accelerate. You know what I'm saying? So if you have not started in property investing education, I want to welcome you to go down in the description below. I have got 3 hours of free training on my website, free training. I did this at the beginning of the hard lockdown of COVID in March 2020. And while people were giving billions, I decided to give from what I am good at, and that's teaching. And so there's 3 hours of practical training where you can apply those tips and tactics straight away. I mean, I dare you to say on your Facebook profile after watching this particular video, I watched this crazy lady talking for X amount of time, talking about the definitions in property and really talking to the beginner who, the beginner's guide to property investment. This is what I learned today. Like, I dare you to say that and see how many people follow what you say, because it's not everybody that will jump on your bandwagon, but you'll find some days there'll be that one person that says, oh, okay. I mean, lately, I've worked opposite way with social media. Lately, I can even take a picture of my food and talk about it. Like, I was not that gal in the beginning of social media. But today, it's a nice cold day in Johannesburg, raining and everything. And I made a nice fish curry. Took time to make roti and carrot salad, everything, from scratch. I was feeling like that gal. And at the end of that, I took a picture and I was like, whoo, nice comfort food. I was delayed, but at least it was not directly on my personal profile. It was on a profile where we were all talking about food. But just think about it. Where are you hanging out online? Where are you doing the things that you need to be doing online? Okay. And if you may be one of those people that say, you know what, Jen, I'm following and now it's time for me to start. If you want to, you could join me in next week. Going down in the description below, see the virtual class that I hold within property investing. I literally break it up into 2 hours an evening, and we do it together privately on a Zoom call. And again, I like my classrooms with a small amounts of people, whether online or face to face. Face to face, the most I ever taught, and they pushed it. They pushed it. It's like 13 people together, 13. But for me, 10 is usually a very nice number, because then I don't lose anybody. Because I'm one of those, I don't want to leave a man behind. All right. So if you're one of those people that say, you know what, it's time for me to get started, down in the description below, you'll see the link to the virtual class. Go and read up about it. We talk about your beliefs and your failures, the things that it teaches you, understanding in a lot more detail what I was talking about this evening about passive and active income strategies, going through understanding the life cycle of a property deal. What are these reports? How are we going to be doing this due diligence? What is market pricing and things like that? What is OPM, other people's money? That's something I didn't touch on much today. OPM, what is other people's money? How would you even use other people's money? So all of those different things is what I go into great detail with. So if you'd love to, you are welcome to join me. I only ever do this training 3 to 4 times a year. So I'm not too sure when I'm going to do it again. But what I do know is that when you click on the link below, even if you're watching this video way in the future, click on the link below, see your curiosity to see which date it will take you to. And I absolutely look forward to serving you. And what I'll also do for those in the future, I'm going to put up a playlist. So on the playlist, you're going to then find um, getting started in property investing. And if you enjoyed this long training and you want to see it in small bits, I would say click on the playlist up here that I will put up here. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Join the tribe. I post generally every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. As I shared yesterday was a hot mess. This is why I'm doing yesterday's training again today in a lot more structured manner. And then tomorrow there'll be a training video nonetheless that I will also put up, but again, a very short one. And all that is how to get started in and around property investing. So I trust that this training has been awesome for you. I look forward to hearing from you. Drop me an email or reach out to me down in the comments below. Share with me what you thought of this particular training. What would be even more exciting is that you hit down for me a word or a definition of something that you've been looking for a lot more of clarification. In future videos, I may just unpack that one for you. Or otherwise, I will obviously also reply, typing the actual response out. In over last weekend, there was somebody that even dropped into my inbox and was asking me about getting started in property and quite a few things. And Monday, I made sure that I shifted out what I'd planned for Monday, and I answered that accordingly. So I do definitely try my best to make sure that the content that I bring you is on point, that it is concise, to the point of teaching. At least once or twice a month, I do come live streaming, sharing maybe a young presentation. Other times I'm drawing and scratching like a mad somebody. But this is my way of teaching and giving my best for that particular part of the subject. Otherwise, thank you so much for your time. Take good care, and I look forward to serving you very, very soon.